talk about this thing that's in my brain. It keeps me from wanting to go on, but I want some gain.
That is 100%.
Maybe a little
Number
fame.
50 official.
Let's get number 50 rolling.
Alrighty. Welcome back to the We the Patriots Podcast. I'm your host, Sal Assante, and with me for number 50, I'm excited to have Andrew back with me. How you doing, Andrew?
Had to be here for the big 5-0.
Hey, we're going to get back to, I would say back to the roots a little bit, and I only want to bring it back to the roots and just kind of spitball with you for, however long it takes, because everything we've been talking about for the past, now it's been basically 3 years, right? We started this pretty much right after 2020 debacle.
Right.
If you were around for that, shout out to you. But, I mean, dude, a lot of the stuff we've been talking about and warning everybody about, everything we've been kind of trying to talk to and get more opinions on is coming fleshed out. It's what's happening in front of everyone's faces, and we're staring down the barrel of another election between the same two people.
Right.
I don't really want to talk about that too much today. I want to talk about all the repercussions around it, and kind of just ask some questions to you, and also, of course, to the listeners out there, to what we could do to shape a better reality, because right now I think the world can see, and we can obviously see in America, that we're heading in a place that don't want to be at. Andrew, how you been, dude? We got 5-0.
We got 5-0.
We were talking a little bit before the show here. I mean, we got way more than just 50 episodes out there, too.
No, we're talking at least 75.
Yeah, and if you get out on WeThePatriotsMedia.com, you can go catch our bonus content that you'll be seeing a lot more of. Really, our opinions, I would say.
Unfiltered, uncensored opinions.
Yeah, try to stay
un-YouTube filtered.
Stay out of it and be more informative on YouTube, especially not try to dive into obviously what could get us flagged just for being normal people and having opinions, which is odd nowadays.
It's sad that your opinion has to be behind a paywall, but
yeah,
that is what it is.
Hey, you know what? It goes to support. I mean, like, look at everything around us. Like, everybody sees this nice picture behind me. Like,
yeah, none of that pretty stuff would have happened without any support.
Yeah, so without you guys and without any sort of paywall, we wouldn't have anything.
That's right.
I think that's just the truth of it. So go support us over at WeThePatriotsMedia.com. Go get some extra bonus stuff. We'll probably have a little extra bonus skit for number 50 here. We'll do a little 10 to 15er after the episode. And
like a lightning round or something like that.
We'll dive into maybe a little bit deeper into what we talk about today. But was there anything on your mind? I do want to at least bust in a little bit of how poorly the postseason really ended, especially for, I'm talking baseball here, for the teams that most people in our country would have rooted for. Most of the big heads would have rooted for, especially most of the people that we have on this show.
Right.
We're all Phillies, Yankees, Red Sox fans. Yep. So, I mean, what do you want to talk about, man? What's on your mind?
I thought it was great. I mean, I have to put it out for the record that back in July, I called that the Texas Rangers were going to win the World Series. So it's just kind of like a divine prediction coming true. Just got to brag a little bit. Thought they were a really solid team. Well, all around, great pitching, great offense, great defense. I really saw them being able to last in October. But I mean, my heart goes out to Arizona as well. I would have been happy if they had won as well.
Came a little early though. I think they came a little early. Like, they got a lot of young talent on that team that's going to learn a lot from that experience.
If they came early, that's great for them.
Yeah.
I mean, they were 3 wins away from a World Series championship.
Yeah.
So that's fine. It hurts. It obviously sucks. But I mean, to just snake your way into the wild card game, sweep some of these teams, and then beat the powerhouse Phillies in the CS Championship Series, and move on to the World Series, right? And
I think they had only 2 wins better than the Yankees this year. They had 84 wins, I believe.
Right. But you look at the Yankees and the Diamondbacks, and they are 2 totally different teams.
Oh, yeah.
Not even close.
But you saw that because you got to see them take on the Dodgers. You got to see them go against the old heads. And look at what happened to the Dodgers this year. I mean, injuries and domestic violence that everybody knew already occurred on the team, and everybody was kind of trying to keep it under the wraps. But then it happened again. This guy's never going to have a job again, Arias. Like that, but that tanked their season. They had so much stock, and
And he's been a mainstay over there for a while now.
He's gotten good.
Yeah.
He's really good at
really
baseball.
good.
He can twirl it. But
Right.
if you can't...
With only one eye.
The only problem is, in the MLB, if you can't have some sort of respect about yourself or keep that shit out of the headlines.
Yeah.
Like, look at what happened to Wander Franco this year. Right? And obviously Trevor Bauer. Like, Trevor Bauer...
Well, the Trevor Bauer thing's
Trevor
different.
Bauer pretty much got exonerated in a way.
The Trevor
If
Bauer
you
thing is
saw-
different.
If you went and saw some of those text messages, I encourage you to go out and read some of them. Go watch the video with him. Obviously, take it into a point of view that this is all his point of view. So there's other stuff that came from the other side, I'm sure. But it was pretty disgraceful to see what a woman would go to and what lengths she would go to
tarnish a man's
try to rip
reputation.
down
Right.
not only a reputation, but try to gain monetary value
Yeah.
out of a
She
man.
texted her friend, "Oh, he's worth
Going to
like
get the
42
bag.
mil or something."
Going
Yeah,
to get
go
the
get the
bag.
bag. Right.
Yeah.
I mean, that's disgusting to me. And the fact that she
It goes to
faces
show
no
she didn't have
criminal
the
charges
smarts
for
though,
that.
but she didn't have the smarts to wait it out till he signed the real big deal
Right.
that he could have actually signed.
Right.
And she could have milked him for a lot.
Right.
So she's an idiot, but she tanked his career, and I don't think he's going to get a chance back. Like, he's got such a stain on him, nobody even wants to offer him.
That is insane to me.
But I find
Absolutely
it
insane.
because MLB went out of their way to punish the man before the courts even got the
Before
issue.
he even was found guilty. How can you
That's
do
my
that?
problem with this whole thing.
Right,
It doesn't
me
matter
too.
what sport it is. I don't care. Like, what if your employer,
Even if it's a regular job.
That's what I'm saying. What if your employer, just regular, like for myself, we'll just say my boss goes out and finds out, hey, your coworker just told me that you hit your wife last night. What?
She's pissed off at you. Now she's going to
So
Tell
that's like
people
my
this?
employer taking my side, firing me for it, and then
Based off of
starting a whole
hearsay.
investigation off of someone else's. And that's basically what happened here.
Right. Which is totally hearsay.
I can't justify that on MLB's part, and I don't think it's a good thing for the sport. I don't think it's a good thing for our culture at all.
No. It's definitely not a good thing for our culture because it's perpetuating this idea that hashtag me too, hashtag anything a woman says is automatically
Or
correct,
anybody,
even if
anybody
it's proven.
says. Like, look at what's
Especially a
happening.
woman,
Like,
though.
look at what's happening politically now, right?
Right.
So
That's true,
And it
too.
doesn't matter what side it is. Like, look at even what's happening to Menendez. Like, they
That's
basically
true.
just tossed him out before really having a
before
trial for him.
actually having a trial, right?
Yeah, and
these
having
are
information.
merely just bribery accusations,
Correct.
and I'm on both sides of that as well. Like, I believe in due process, no matter the side.
Exactly. So that's my point being exactly, is that it doesn't matter in what case, and we can all have our opinions on it, but it doesn't have anything to do with what is the due process of law and what should be the due process in our country.
Right.
It doesn't matter if it's even law. If we're talking about an organization like MLB, NFL, NBA, if they're not going to follow due process and they're just going to go on their own kangaroo court and just do it outside of what the regular courts are because they don't agree with,
Right.
then what is our judicial system? It has no backing and it has no foundation.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's not even our judicial system because they acquitted him. They didn't end up charging him. That's just our society trying to bend the knee and trying to be all virtuous.
Trying to be virtue and woke,
right.
yeah.
Well, I think it's the opposite of virtuous in my opinion because if you're punishing somebody that didn't commit a crime and there's genuine evidence to support that they didn't commit a crime, how are you being virtuous?
How are you in any way being virtuous, or are you being justice ridden? How are you seeking justice in that instance?
You're pandering to the
I mean, that's
loud
what our country's
minority.
become. That's what our
the
country's
loud
become.
minority that seems like the majority. Oh, you have to do this hashtag for this social cause. We need to be progressive. We need to change the narrative. Really?
But you got to be honest, it's gotten into all sports. Like, did you enjoy the MLB playoffs?
I did,
Right.
actually.
Right? I thought it was a really good playoff.
I did.
I thought it was enjoyable. Anybody who didn't like the Texas ALCS and then the Texas Arizona, two small market teams, quote unquote.
I just wanted
Texas
the-
isn't small market, by the way, but
No, definitely not.
not even close.
With how much money
They just had a
spent?
lot of losses 2 years ago,
Right, which is bad on them. Spend
and they
all the
would
money
have,
lose.
but they would have been considered.
Arizona's small market without a doubt.
They would have. I'm saying Texas would have been considered small market 2 years ago because of their cap, but not because of their potential spending. Like they were holding back, and I think I think it was a clear tanking case, to be honest.
Right.
But they were reserving back. Like that's when they started pursuing adult lists. That's
Yeah,
when they
for
started
big
looking
guys.
at Well, Adolis wasn't a big guy. Adolis was a guy who was flunking out in another minor league system and ended up working out for them.
The Cardinals,
guys-
by the way, more
yeah.
talent they got rid of.
Correct.
No, but big guy in terms
Adolis
of like,
has been a guy I've been looking at for
they
years.
got Semien, they got
Well, now
Seager.
those guys are going to be huge.
That's what I'm saying.
They are
They
huge.
went out, they saved the money, they got those guys.
And they didn't develop in 1 year. That was a 2-year process.
Right.
Crazy how quick it came in.
It's very quick.
But I mean, Seager, dude. I mean,
Yeah, he went off.
But he looked like all the woes that he has for not being the top line defensive shortstop. When it comes down to it, and you watched him play ball, like he got it. Every play pretty much got done.
Right.
And if not, Josh Jung,
Yeah.
dude, he could play.
That's good.
He could play, man.
Dude, I'm at the point with baseball where I'm going for the underdog. I really don't care who wins as long as it's not the Astros or the Cubs or the Red Sox. That's about it. Like if you're a small market team,
See who the Red Sox hired?
no,
Sorry to stay on baseball for so long. You didn't see who they hired?
No.
They hired who's it? Who is the oh goodness, you're gonna have to go look it up now. It was one of the old lefties that they had on like the 2013 team, I think.
really.
Man, one of the pitchers. He went to one of the Ivy Leagues.
Huh.
Yeah.
No, but I was saying like I enjoyed this playoff so much because the big market
Big
cap
dogs got
teams
clobbered, yeah.
just got just eliminated. Clobbered.
Do you think it would have been fun to see the Orioles
lose.
go further though?
They didn't just lose; they got swept. Most of them.
Yeah,
the
they got
Orioles got
knocked out.
swept. The Dodgers got swept.
The Astros
right?
were the only ones that really
gave
pushed it.
a
Yeah.
fight. So I'm glad they ultimately got knocked out. The Orioles, I would have liked to have seen go further. So they're the exception because I would consider them a small market team who came.
Oh,
from
they're
nowhere.
100% a small
Who
market
came
team.
from nowhere.
Yep.
Absolutely
Well,
just
If
full talent.
you weren't watching everything, yeah, but they've been coming up
But
for a
right,
long
they're not
time,
a name
yeah.
you were talking about, and if there's really not big names per
to win
se.
100 games.
But last year, like you wouldn't really know any big names on the Orioles. They were just dudes who like had great chemistry.
Unless
showed
you were
up to the
really
ballpark
into
every
the
day.
minor league baseball, no.
Right, and
like
unless you really like the layperson,
Yeah.
even the casual baseball fan, I wouldn't know shit.
No.
I barely knew shit about the Orioles. And props to them. They were a bunch of dudes with chemistry who showed up to the ballpark every day, trying to win, and they got it done in the regular season. To their credit, so it would have been cool to see them go a little bit further, but. I can live with the fact that it was two smaller market teams that ultimately made it. The Braves knocked out, Milwaukee knocked out, although they're kind of larger market at this point.
They're
I
in the
think.
middle for sure.
Yeah, definitely the middle.
But they've been in the playoffs enough recently probably to have
Right.
enough money flowing in.
Right,
I
so
had a question for
they're
you,
whatever.
though.
Dodgers
based
out.
off all this.
Padres out too, and they're
the
spending a lot of money.
Well, did you see that they got to take loans now?
Really?
Yeah. Yeah, they're like hemorrhaging money right now.
Oh, man.
No way they're going to afford, so they're going to have to like,
Yeah, he's gonna have to go bye-bye.
he's going to the pinstripes, I think.
You think?
That's the talk.
Wow.
Because they're not going for Ohtani, and I wouldn't want them to.
Who the
I
Yanks?
think it's the biggest overspend in history.
The
Ohtani.
Yanks?
No, just Ohtani. Whoever gets Ohtani, I think it's going to be the biggest overspend in history. You're
Because
gonna
it's coming off Tommy John.
They're
He's
going to
gonna eventually.
They're going to repair that elbow, and they're going to be like,
He's
at
not
some
gonna throw
point, it's going to be
100.
like, dude, you hit 40 bombs a year, just hit.
Just
like
hit 40
that's
bombs a
what
year.
it's going to be.
Try to hit 50 bombs a year.
Yeah,
instead of chuck
just go
100 miles
go
an
hit,
hour.
go hit every fucking day. Go hit.
Right.
That's what it's going to be. I guarantee you.
Right.
Because and come be our closer. That would be a better solution.
Probably
realistically.
save his arm.
Yep. And he can go full out, and if it don't work, all of a sudden I'll be a hitter. Like,
Right. He can come in from left field or right field, close the game,
like
which can actually be a defensive
good closer
advantage.
makes $20 million a year. Add
Right.
that on to a good hitter.
Yeah, I mean honestly,
Like-
and if you could prove it too. But when you
Yeah.
think about that, having
He did it in the World Baseball Classic against Trout.
your say if he comes from the outfield, goes to pitch, right? That
Sure.
can be a defensive advantage, right? If a manager wants to
100%.
switch things
If
around,
they're willing to do that, yeah.
right? Like where you won't have to necessarily take out who you'd otherwise not want to take out.
Oh, yeah.
Right. So like
Yeah.
you can have Ohtani come in, he can stay in the game to hit, say the next inning in a tight game. Mm-hmm. He goes right back out to the outfield. Another pitcher comes in, like for a lefty on lefty matchup or something like that.
Sure.
Next inning, Ohtani's able to hit instead of come out to the game because he's able to switch back out to the outfield.
Yes, he is.
So
Just
that's-
positional change.
So that's pretty.
It's It's like backyard baseball shit.
Pretty
That's
much.
like Little League baseball stuff.
But I think that's sick.
But it's great.
I think
no,
that's
it's
sick.
a great rule.
I think
What about the pitcher re-enter rule?
But
as long as he doesn't come off the field.
Right.
You ever see that one?
right, yeah. No, but I think that would be great for baseball.
Yeah.
If you could just have
Have
dudes
him just
come in
hitting,
and
coming
chuck
in
in.
from right. Yeah. And
I think
chuck
that would be
Imagine
such
Rick Ankiel like
right,
back in his day.
Right.
Like,
If more people could do that, I think that would be really cool for baseball.
I totally agree, man. But I want to carry it into a little bit of what's been going on just in the rest of the world. Have you seen you know what's going on with BRICS? You ever heard of BRICS?
No, not familiar.
Okay, so BRICS is the conglomerate of nations that is Brazil, China, Russia, India, and North Korea, I believe. I feel like it might be like Saudi, might be Iran. Now listen, it's basically it's the anti-American coalition.
Yeah,
is basically
sounds like
basically what this is.
Sounds like a great
So
place.
they're trying to find a new world currency.
Right.
Yeah.
That's why Bitcoin's been going through the roof, and all other alternative forms of currency and stores of value.
This is what I wanted to ask you about and see if you had any hearing abouts. Yeah, because I was talking a little bit about with it. We had an ex-felon on the show. If you haven't seen that, let's just say
that's a good one.
You gotta go. You gotta go
That's
listen to it and have your own opinion on it. I have my
Especially
own
the
opinion
bonus
on it.
episode.
The bonus episode was just something out there. It's actually free on our website as long as you continue to sign up. You can get that for free. It's a free bonus episode. But you got to go sign up at wethepatriotsmedia.com. Over there, you can go share us, go get all the bonus content that you would never be able to see here on YouTube, on Spotify, on Apple, anywhere else.
Trust me, it's much better.
It's way better that way.
This is watered down. Very watered down.
It really is. But so for all those out there, there is nations and peoples who do not agree and do not want to live on the same earth as us, or would be okay with us leaving. Right? Making that distinction in today's world is so crucial because social media brings us to the other side of the world in a click.
In an instant.
In a click. And you could think that someone that you're connecting with or doing business with in India, in China, in Russia, it resembles the whole humankind in that area, and it's just not true. As a way of thinking, generally speaking, there's a lot of areas in the world that would like to see us rot, right?
Yeah,
I
think it's a significant portion of the world population too.
I think it's a huge issue, and I think it's something that we need to start taking upon ourselves. We have the ability to vote, right? How much that vote means, I think we need to start determining for ourselves and doing our own self-count. I think that's pretty important. Making sure that we all count for ourselves and talking to people that we know. Making sure that we know how people voted, even if they disagree with us. But knowing
you voted to make sure the system's legitimate.
Correct. Right. Knowing where everybody is standing, and if we have decent common sense and an ability to have a community place of talking and not be at each other's throats no matter what, I think we can really come out of this. Like, we got to vote for people who are not going to extend this debt, man. We got to start
it makes me physically ill to think about.
But we need to think of the actual ramifications of that, right? So, like, how many countries are reliant on us and our market surviving?
The U.S. dollar is the currency of the world.
That's where I'm getting at. It's basically every nation, if you break it down. Like, even if our currency was to fail today, every nation I just mentioned in that BRICS community, they're all affected majorly.
They would absolutely be
majorly.
Affected.
That's why they're looking for the solution right now, because they think they see it on the horizon.
Yeah.
It's on us to make sure that we're electing people to get us out of this mess.
And why do you think they're all supporting the leaders most of the leaders we currently have in office right now? Because they are, especially at the federal level, because they're driving the nation into the ground. Unfortunately,
it's undermining our own well-being and our own future.
Right.
It's on us, man. But it extends always. Like, you see, the world is fracturing in a way, right? Like, if you keep looking more and more into the Russia and Ukraine thing, do you really pick a side that's good?
No, you don't.
Do you know who fights?
You program to.
But you know who fights with Ukraine? Like, you know who's leading most of that army at this point, or allegedly?
Who?
It's Nazi
Oh, right.
type people.
Right,
Like
right.
it's
Yeah.
not the type of people that we as the West would really support, or if you got to know them and what they really advocated for or why they're going into Russia. It's not very good stuff.
No, it's not.
No, they
Ukraine isn't all innocent
they're one of the
as
most corrupt,
everyone
they're one of the most corrupt countries in
is
the world.
trying to lead you to believe.
One of
Right.
the most corrupt
I'm not
countries in the world.
justifying the war necessarily per se.
There's no good guy in that war, is what I'm
But
trying
right,
to say.
right. Everyone hashtag stand with Ukraine, hashtag Ukrainian flags up all over the place, hashtag peace, love, whatever. I mean, sure. No, I don't agree with. I agree. I want countries and world leaders to respect other countries' sovereignty, or in any situation. But yeah, like you were saying, there's really no good guy in this situation.
Well, as soon
per
as you
se.
pick
there's
sides
less
is the
worse.
issue, too.
There's less worse.
There's less worse, but there's also, in my opinion, like this is an issue that if we weren't so tied up, especially our own president right now, if he wasn't so tied up in it, we would just be out of it. It wouldn't be our problem, but we've made it our problem.
Right.
Right? More than likely, we were to blame for that pipeline failing that's going into Germany.
Right.
Right? We caused their dire straits at this point, and look at how their country's looking right now.
Yeah.
It's getting to be pretty brutal all across Europe, and
Right.
it's obviously hitting home here. Prices of stuff is skyrocketing. We're basically, by all of this hidden tax that we're paying, we're funding these wars. Where do you think they're getting all of this money from? Right, most of it's fake and printed anyway, but
Right. It's the U.S. dollar.
it's all coming from us.
Right.
It's all coming from us, and the U.S. dollar is still regulated to the world. Like we are the most accountable dollar that there is. That's why the world uses us as a base currency.
And I think that that's being taken for granted by everybody.
Everybody.
Our leaders, our citizens of other countries, with the, barring a few exceptions of smart people who actually see that there's an issue with inflation, printing money, giving money away to all these countries, giving these, pallets of cash over. Like, I have a problem with that. And there's not enough awareness around why that's an issue. I think people just don't understand why just giving money away and why inflation is such an issue.
Well,
Because if
let's
to a
talk about it a little
layperson
bit.
who doesn't understand inflation, right, it can be confusing. So I understand it.
Let's talk about it a little bit. So why might it be bad to give any leader cash? It incentivizes, in my opinion, you're incentivizing them to ask for more, right?
Well, that, and
when you're giving it in this large of sum, you're incentivizing them to, and you might say you're not, but they're gonna take some and give it to either themselves, their family, their friends,
right.
leaders that they have gotten them into power, right?
So, right.
That money needs to funnel back down.
It's going to funnel back down. So it's not going to go
Not
to
going
its
where you think
intended
it's going.
use.
Yeah, not
gonna
going
go
where
to
you
its
think it's
intended
going.
use.
What do you think?
I believe it's also going to cause. How do I say this? Like,
Unplanned consequences,
yeah, in a way.
unforeseen
Yeah.
consequences.
It's
Yeah.
because we all know like how dirty money works, right? Like that's what it, like you were saying, like it's gonna go back to everyone's pals, and what it kind of does is like there's
It funnels back.
there's an
Yeah.
unwritten assumption when you get money that I'm giving you this under the condition that when I need a hand now, you're gonna do
Right.
this now, right?
Well, now let's take it back.
So there's
Why
kind
would
of
you
those
give
unwritten
money?
rules.
Like, think about the American position. Why would you unlock the $6 billion to what did they say? To humanitarian aid to Palestine? Is that what
Right.
they called it?
Yep, humanitarian aid,
Was that to Palestine that they gave it, or to Iran?
Palestine.
It might have been Iran. Might have
Really?
to check that. Might have to check that. But I believe the aid was released to Iran. What are the ramifications of giving a terrorist-run state $6 billion in quote-unquote humanitarian aid? Right?
Right.
And ramifications to the layperson are, well, maybe that $6 billion isn't going to get allocated to war funds directly, but maybe they had $6 billion that was already allocated to humanitarian funds from their own treasury that now they're going to use for war. Does anybody think about that when you're thinking about releasing aid to Iran or trying to help out the innocents of Palestine? It was in, I believe it was July or August of 2023.
I'm seeing all different kinds of numbers.
It was
I'm seeing
$6 billion.
$100 million.
It was $6 billion. Just look for the $6 billion. It's probably a headline. It's probably not totally true, but
Right.
I want to know. What I want to know is where it went, right? Because I think it went to
Right.
Iran, and Iran backs Hamas. They back
Right.
Hezbollah.
I was gonna like what
Right.
I was gonna say. What directly speaking, what does Iran have to? I mean, are there citizens fleeing there? Is that why
But
they're
no. Iran backs
Hamas?
Hamas,
I know.
which controls Gaza.
I know, but I'm
Yep.
saying, why are we giving Iran? If what you're saying is true, why are we giving Iran $6 million and not sending it to the source of where there's actually humanitarian
why.
crisis? Yeah.
We all know why. That's where we ask the larger question,
Right.
Right? Why would you do this when you're like? Let's think about it. Joe Biden's an idiot. Yes, we know that, and maybe he's brain dead. Yeah, we know that, but he's also enriched his family, right?
Right.
He's also made a good deal at this politic thing. He's rode his way all the way to the top of the top. American politics at this stage in the world history is the top of the top
Right.
in politicians, and he made it there. Whether
world.
doesn't matter how he did it, he cheated. He made it there.
Right.
He is the elected president of the United States right now. Right?
Correct.
He's not totally stupid. He knows, and his administration knows there's ramifications to giving a country like that so much money.
Right.
Because I'm pretty sure that's where it went. I'm pretty sure it went to Iran. All right? They know there's ramifications, and they know that that money in some way, shape, or form is going to get used back on either Americans themselves or American allies.
Right. Exactly right.
Right?
Well, look what happened with Afghanistan 2 years ago. Same exact thing.
You can look back on it. I've been looking over the history of this Hamas, not Hamas, but the Palestine in particular, but Gaza Strip with
Right.
Israel. This is going to be the third time. I don't know if Israel's launched their ground invasion. I'm not 100% sure. This is going to be the third time that they're going to do it.
Wow.
Like, literally, the same thing happened. An attack happens. Israel goes up in arms
retaliates.
and retaliates in the same way. And then something happens. And so it really makes me think more and more about what happened on, I believe it was October 7th. Was it October 7th?
I think so.
Makes me think about that Saturday. Makes me think about what they were doing. It's a holy day, right? For them, that should be their day of prayer, right? And I know there was a music festival that should be heavily guarded. So what happened, right? It makes me ask a lot more questions there. It also makes me think, because I don't know if you've noticed that every single right-winger, every single conservative is cock-sucking the Israeli government right now.
That is true.
And I can't get behind it.
Right.
I can't as just a free thinking person. Now, what happened on October 7th was fucking vile and disgusting. The videos that I saw were really disturbing. So you can't say that nothing happened, but are the numbers a lie?
Potentially.
They have to be, because
Right.
look at how they lied about the hospital over in Gaza.
Right.
Okay? It was an utter lie.
Well, you have to think
On
about
both
what they're
sides.
doing, too.
Both sides
They're-
totally
both-
lied
they're-
about
they're-
it. They didn't know what happened.
They're
'cause it didn't happen.
exaggerating on both sides because they want to spread propaganda, one, in the middle of a war. Propaganda
It's fog
always
of war,
arises.
man. That's what I wanted to talk about. Fog of war.
It's just war.
and that's
Right.
where people I don't think understand that fog of war. Like Russia and Ukraine have been at war for well over a year now, I believe.
Yeah.
it's going to be second year coming in January, I believe. Second
Yep.
year coming in February.
Yep.
Now-
Yeah, it was February.
Right.
Wow. Yeah, that's right.
Okay. So now we're going to be coming on two major front wars in the world, and people may say they're localized, but they're going to start getting out of hand quickly, just because we're involved in both. Both wars.
Right, and it's already a world war, and this is the point you
We've
were
talked
making
about
before.
this. We've talked about this.
Well, with money, when you give money to one country, whether or not that country is directly involved with another country who's in another war, right? You start to get your hands dipped into conflict.
And we all know that
which
we
is
support
how-
Israel.
Which is how
Like, everybody knows we support
right.
Israel.
And we should. But this is
Yeah.
But this is how world wars start. This
Yeah.
is how World War III is going to start, as far as I'm concerned. I mean, if we avert crisis here, it's because of some divine intervention.
Yeah, I agree.
It really is.
No, I agree. And I would say they're really holding off on trying to call it World War III because they're trying to obviously stave off what it could become. But
Because it technically isn't really yet. But I mean, if you have the United States
you have the United
supporting
States, you have supporting both
Ukraine,
sides, really.
right,
In
supporting Israel, right, you can look at this as like allied powers again.
Correct.
Right? Israel, United States, China, Russia, India,
it's
Brazil,
all up to
whatever, North
interpretation.
Korea,
It's
whatever.
all up to interpretation.
Right, of course.
This is where I want people to understand that if we just minded our own fucking business and worried about the fucking demons in our own closet that we continually neglect here in our own nation, we wouldn't be in this mess. It just wouldn't. It would be someone else's problem, and that's kind of sad to say, in a way, in some scenarios. But listen, how many wars can we get involved in? Seriously, Andrew.
Without it having to fully commit, not many. I don't think we could really get involved with many more.
I'm saying,
because you're going to run out of
I
countries.
guess a better question would be, is it possible for the United States to just fund a war?
Maybe one. But that's my point, is like, I don't.
Like it gets to
it
we
gets
need
to a
start,
point where
we need to start sending our units to know that we have control of the situation.
Well, it gets to a
very
point where
quickly.
there's only so many significant enough countries in the world,
Yeah.
right, where if they're at war at one time, there's only so many countries where, you're either going to be aligned with them or against them.
Right.
Like
Once you
with
start
who you're
causing,
supporting.
until you start causing groups.
Right.
Just
So you're
fraction
just
groups,
because because just by law of numbers, right?
Mm-hmm.
You're
gonna start making alliance.
you have what,
groups. It has to
5,
happen.
6, 7 countries that are significant enough that if like we went to war and we were supporting them, it's going to piss a number of people off,
and all of their allies,
and all of their
and
allies
enemies.
as well.
Yep.
So they're automatically right. Like, all right, maybe just the Russia-Ukraine war, right? Fine, but now if we're funding the Israel-Hamas war, well, that's also now pissing off Russia, China,
Correct.
North Korea, who's not necessarily really a threat per se, but they try to say it is.
They want to make it seem like it.
Right.
They try to put on a front.
Right. Saudi Arabia, Iran, so we're pissing off the whole Middle East and all of China and Russia by getting involved with Ukraine and Russia as well. So that's kind of what I mean, is that like we're kind of running out of countries and conflicts to get involved with before either someone attacks us to retaliate
Or starts going after all of our allies.
or starts going after all of our allies, and we'll be obligated to then at that point
Right.
come to their defense.
Yeah. I mean, that's the point that we are at
Yeah.
right now.
Yeah,
is
it
the
is.
point that attacking of U.S. allies, and the tough one with Ukraine, and I think that was a strategic move. Obviously, it was a strategic move, but it's hard to defend Ukraine for a long time. It is hard.
Especially at the government level.
It's hard. It's
Right.
just, and but it's even hard to project to our people to support it. Like you can get people on onrush and Russia is bad. Russia invaded. You can get that for a certain amount of time, but then they're going to go, A, not really support giving our money to them. B, just kind of find out the facts and find out it's not as clear cut as
Wow.
everyone's talking about. I think that's the honest truth, because it's too dirty. Israel and Hamas, Israel and Palestine is so much more rooted in the culture of that area, and it is literally the culture of that area to win that area over ideologically and subvert the people. It is just what happens in that area throughout history, right? It gets conquered ideologically and by blood. That's just what
Right.
happens, right? Israel is the only democracy there.
That's true. And it's not even close. And it's just totally surrounded by
That's it.
everything else
That's
in
it.
the Middle East.
Now, one thing that I really want to get away from as conservatives, because I can't stand this, you are not anti-Semitic if you're gonna complain or you are gonna trash the Israeli government. You're not anti-Semitic. I'm sorry, that's just not a truth. I hear that from so many conservatives,
Right.
Specifically, everybody at the Daily Wire now.
Oh, of
just
course.
spits that shit
Right,
out.
because if you were to say that at the Daily Wire, you're fired.
You're fired. That's disgusting.
the terms aren't
to say
synonymous.
that you can't criticize a government and it makes you
somehow
anti-Semitic or racist or
racist
whatever.
or anti a whole religion.
That's
No.
ridiculous.
Right.
That's like saying if Barack Obama was our president, and they did try to do this. If you're gonna criticize Barack Obama, you're a racist. That's absolutely wrong. You can
Right.
criticize the man based on his policy and what he does, and the
Right.
same is the case here. I think that Israel has a lot to answer to with the amount of civilians. If you look at the numbers that are coming out, and if you believe them, because I think that's important, if you believe the numbers that are coming out, Israel basically killed 10x what happened on October 7th. 90 to 95% of that is civilian casualties.
Really?
Yes. Which would mean they well made up for the deaths that happened
Right.
on October 7th,
Right.
civilian-wise.
Huh.
Well made up for it. And then 7 times over. Yeah. Yeah. If you believe the numbers
That's
that are coming
insane.
out of it, though, right? Which is also important on both sides.
Right.
Are you
because-
going to believe that 1,400 Jews all died? Because they haven't done much
Because
to prove it. Now,
Hamas
it's
is gonna
very sacred
exaggerate
in their
that.
religion. I'm talking about Israel's side. It's
Right.
very sacred in their religion. I understand that. They may not want to put that out publicly, and that's fine. But there hasn't been much proof other than the videos that you saw that were posted by
Right.
third-party people. And then
Right.
they obviously, a lot of them got taken down afterward. But
Right.
those initial shock videos were the only proof that I actually value. Because everything after that, including whatever video came out of the hospital attack, whatever happened with that, like, did you see them stage that hospital stage when they were giving out that announcement?
No.
I don't think you'd even be able to find it if you looked it up, but it was so vile because they just staged it so they had like 4 or 5 kids just sporadically like in pieces, these kids like falling apart, some of them dead, and
Really?
their parents were all holding them and tending to them. It
Holy
was so
shit.
staged. You could tell immediately that it was staged. Now,
Right.
are they real injuries? Are they not? Did they happen 500 yards away? Did they happen a month ago? You don't fucking know
You don't
because
know,
it's
right.
obvious that, like I said, it's obvious it's staged. It might have happened 5 minutes ago. It might have happened 5 months ago.
Right.
You have no idea.
Part of propaganda.
They come out within hours of this hospital attack. They come out and claim that 500 people died.
Right. That wasn't true.
To ID
was-
that many deaths in that short
that
amount of time, it would have been like this block of the building had 500 people, and
And
it
we know
is
for a
all
fact that now
leveled.
it is literally gone.
That
It
would
is
be the
incinerated.
only way for them to determine that, and it didn't happen because the damage to the hospital did not happen.
No.
It happened in the parking lot and the building next to it.
Correct.
So when you looked at the facts, I don't know how much you looked into it, but I really tried to find out what the fuck happened because everyone
Seems
was
like it.
slinging words.
Everyone is slinging words.
Everyone was slinging
Without
words
doing
about it,
research.
and they're using it as their object, no matter what side they're on.
Right.
Israel is saying, "Look at them; they would bomb their own people," which is like obvious. It was a misfire. They didn't do it on purpose. If
Right.
that was the truth, and look at
Kind of ironic, though.
but look at what they'll say, and they'll also say, I believe their first reaction, Israel's first reaction was, "Well, they hide their people in the hospital," which I'm getting tired of hearing. Do you hear that from every conservative? Too?
Meaning they hide.
Hamas hides under
right.
civilian locations because they just use that as an excuse to melt whatever they want.
Right. Whatever they want.
Which is what I've noticed. I don't know if anyone else has noticed, but Israel
I think-
basically says that before anything now. They just say, "Oh well, Hamas hides behind civilians.
That's a good
They use them as human
observation.
shields."
That
And
is a good observation.
but it's a bad excuse. It's a bad
Right.
excuse for them to use. If, like I said, if the numbers that are coming out are true, you'll have to verify this later, and I can go look at this when we go edit it. But I believe it's somewhere in the neighborhood of about 8,000 to 10,000 killed already on the Palestinian side.
Wow.
Like
That's-
I said, 90 to 95% civilian casualties.
That's absurd to
Yeah.
think about.
And think about that reaction. Think about that.
Wow.
Yeah. I think you can criticize that. I think you can validly say that that's an overstep on Israel's part. Because you're just doing the same thing that you called out for the whole world to support you in condemning.
And
You
did-
just
yeah,
did
right.
the same shit other than rape them. We don't know.
Right.
IDF
They
has
wouldn't
proved
say
to be a
that.
bunch of idiots.
Right.
The ones that post shit all over TikTok. Excuse me.
Right.
Like, they look like clowns, some of them.
Right, they're not-
Obviously, it's not the mainstay.
They're right. Like if there's any of that abuse of civilians going on, I don't think they're going to disclose that because that's not the image they want to
They're
portray.
not, but I'm saying
Hamas doesn't care. They'll do that.
But they would want to use that as propaganda. I haven't seen that. I haven't
Right.
seen them say that the Jews are raping and they're raping our women and children. I haven't seen that. They're obviously killing civilians.
Right.
Man, woman, child doesn't matter. That is what they're alleging.
I'd rather be 8,000 or 9,000 Hamas fighters.
Ain't gonna happen.
I know,
Ain't gonna happen.
but I'm saying I'd rather be because that would just totally
Yeah.
decimate them.
Ain't gonna happen.
Totally would have decimated them.
Yeah, you just can't. And now they're so ingrained in that. And the sick part over there is what bothers me is they haven't had an election since their installment. I believe in 2006, they haven't had a real election.
Really.
And allegedly they poll in anywhere between 15 and 30% is allegedly what Hamas polls right now.
Really?
But they won't hold an election, so it doesn't matter.
Wow.
Allegedly. This is all allegedly. This is from what I read. I'll put my sources in. This is all allegedly.
But
Right.
even if that's remotely true, that's
Still a decent amount of people if you're talking about
significant part of the population.
But if you're talking about 2 million people, it's a lot of people.
Yeah.
Right? And
No,
I
it is
am on the
statistically
side
significant.
of Israel in opposing that. How you
Right.
oppose that, I think it needs to be more simple than a one-day reaction, and we're sending in Air Force and ground force, because Hamas doesn't have Air Force.
No.
They don't have
No.
those capabilities, dude.
They're flying Cessnas
They could
and
easily
blimps.
just run up like, hey, give us 3 more Iron Domes while we work on a plan. I think that's a way more valid solution
Right.
than let's just barge in there with our Air Force, which is very capable, and our
Very
ground
capable.
troops, which are very highly technical and very
Very
much more
skilled.
efficient and more skilled than these fighters, right?
Right.
Rather than use that force that you know is, why wouldn't you conduct a plan with your allies first? And that's
true.
that's where I think that Israel made a big mistake here, because they might have provoked the bear, essentially, which would be Iran.
Well, maybe they also didn't want to get involved with other nations and maybe they wanted to keep their allies out of this too. Like what we were talking about earlier. Maybe they didn't want to piss anybody else off.
How's that
potentially.
possible nowadays?
Could have been what
Listen,
they're thinking.
Netanyahu, in my opinion, ain't any better than what Hamas leadership is. Because I believe he's been in power since the 90s or 2000, somewhere around there.
Been a while.
That's when you can look up how long Netanyahu's been up. That's a guy that I think is highly deserving of criticism. He's barely held together a coalition at times, and I believe even was taken out and reinstalled. Like, put him back in after.
Was he?
I think he got
don't know.
removed, but nobody was able to actually get a prime minister coalition together. Like, it's really weird in Israel. You got to go research this shit. This shit is wild.
That is wild.
Yeah, but were you? I'm careening this. Were you aware of Israel's like prior issues before Hamas attacked?
Israel's
Like their
always had
internal
issues.
like their internal issues though. But I'm saying like they were on the verge of, not on the verge of civil war, I wouldn't say, but like there were some big issues, especially surrounding Netanyahu and his use of the courts.
No, I didn't hear that.
And we'll save that for the bonus episode.
Okay.
It's
That's a good one.
It's weird, dude. But when you trace that logic down, people will call me anti-Semitic. So I don't even want to.
You don't want to get into it
I don't
on
even
here?
want to chance it. Don't even want to chance it. No, because I'm trying to see both sides, man.
Right.
I really am, because I think it's one thing that we should see both sides on. It's a very hard issue.
I'm
to
looking forward to
understand.
seeing what you think about that.
It's tough.
Huh.
It's tough, man. Yeah, but I think people need to realize that all these issues we're talking about here are all affected by the decisions we make, especially at the ballot box.
Right. Right, because the leaders we vote into office are making these decisions that affect these outcomes in the real world.
This goes for Israel. This goes for every Western country that you're able to vote. Take advantage of what right you have now and vote in the leader that you think will actually project us into strength. And it may be a hard next 5 years, 10 years.
Wow.
To recover, realistically, how long do you think the economy is going to be great if we're trying to recover from 33, 34, 38 trillion dollars worth of debt by the end of this guy's presidency?
I don't think it's
It's going to be rough. Ain't gonna
if
be good.
possible at all.
It ain't going to be good.
If possible at all.
I'm telling you guys,
Right.
the restrictions that are going to have to be put on trade, the amount that we're going to have to internalize and work for the American, buy the American, pay for American goods, even though they might be a little bit more expensive now, we're going to have to do that for a while to bring back the reality of what our currency should be
Right.
and how
To
strong our dollar really
to
can be.
reestablish its strength. And honestly, I'm not going to have an issue with that because I think that's how it really should have been all along.
I'm not, but our country has to be okay with it. Like, Amazon is going to basically disappear. It's going to have to.
Unless
And
it somehow
there could be-
becomes a
they
domestic
can-
company.
I was going to say they're going to have to Americanize really quickly,
Right.
which they might be able to.
I think so.
Right? But they're going to have to Americanize, or there's going to be an American version. Because, and it
Right.
just ain't going to be as cheap. It's going to be, we guarantee this is American-made product, and we have the best product. It's no
Right.
longer going to be the cheapest.
It's not going to be
the
some
best.
cheap shit from
It's gonna be the
China,
best.
from an Amazon FBA warehouse.
It's going to be
Right.
the best, and we can guarantee our products whereabouts, where it came from, and where it was assembled. That's
Right.
going to be important. I can guarantee.
Now, if you
that.
can mix that with the
This is if we're going on a good trajectory.
expedited delivery.
This is where
You
we're
have a pretty
going,
good business
if we're going
model.
on a, yes, but if we're going on a trajectory here,
Right.
like this is if we're going on the right trajectory. And
That's a big if.
I really, really implore you guys to go out, do some research. Like, even the people that are on the top two on each side here on this upcoming ballot box might not be the one that is best for the country. Just be honest with yourselves. Look yourselves deep and actually do the research and find out what we're doing here. Right. I mean, honestly, right? And there might be a valid, really clear-cut choice up at the top, too. Do your research.
Right.
Do your research. Because I can tell you right now, if you think that the guy that's in office right now, or the people that are supporting him, which are going to put out another candidate if he flops, which is very possible, if you think those people are putting us in the right direction, right? I think
I don't know what else to say to try to convince you.
I don't think that's true. I think you're looking at intangibles that are no longer relevant. I think the woke stuff is done. I think you can't even focus on it anymore. And you need to look at that.
Right.
It is degrading our society, but we're not even talking about that right now. You need to stop putting that at the forefront. Woke is now equivalent to normalcy. That's fine. You got your point. Leave it there. Stop trying to push us. Stop trying to put your policies on us. We need to come back and fix the issues. What are the main issues? Like I said, the debt, right? We need to fix our families breaking up, which is causing massive crime rates, I believe. Massive crime rates. And it's causing the cyclical problem of having massive divorce rates, which is really an issue for just happiness in general and for
Life fulfillment in general and for children.
And I was going to say, and for the amount of children, too.
Right.
The happiness for the children, absolutely, but also just the amount of children you're going to have. In a happy marriage, you're going to have a hell of a lot more kids than you're going to have in a pissed-off marriage.
Right.
Probably that pissed-off marriage, you're going to end that before you even have more than one kid, if you have one.
Yeah. And if you do spread around 10 seedlings, right? If they're going to be fatherless, motherless, have no direction, not have that
you might as well not have
family
kids.
structure that the young human mind needs.
Yeah.
You know, you have 10 people who then reproduce on from there, potentially with the same.
As a society, we need to acknowledge that that's an issue.
It is.
And we need to come to grips with the fact that there is a certain amount of people in our society who, let's face it, they're just not going to integrate. They're not going to integrate. And maybe their best place is not a prison. So Republicans need to get that in their hand.
They need
I
totally agree
for
with.
someone who does not fit into the society we're trying to build, and they're doing it willingly.
That does not make them
That does
criminal.
not make them a criminal.
Social
and,
deviance does not equal criminality.
Correct. And if you're going to take, I do not agree on the point that we should legalize all drugs, but I think you need to make it a point to stop this cartel. You need to legalize most of what they can carry, and I think we need to pull that out to Americans to see what is a viable drug use.
Right.
I think we need to stop putting that in the hands of people who are not the American citizens. And
Because
aren't
once
us.
you remove the money from the hands of the cartels,
Correct.
by legalizing what they traffic, you remove all their power and they disappear.
You automatically create an industry too. Whether it's a very profitable industry or not is based on Americans' behavior. That
True.
you cannot predict.
That
and
you cannot predict.
And as the government, you can't jump in. That's a big problem with marijuana legalization. So setting prices and trying to hone in on the percentages or whatever the fuck you're going to deviate from, it just makes people grow outside of your stupid shops anyway.
Right.
Right? So just get your fucking hands out of it.
Not
Set the
gonna
business up
change.
and say you owe us this tax money because it will be green money.
Right.
Set them up. Right.
Right,
And I
that's
think
it.
you pull it. I think you pull it because I can't justify in my head like something like I'll use the same example I used with Herb K. I can't justify a PCP or a fentanyl being legal. I can't.
I can't either.
Now, somebody else might be able to make a better justification than I can, and might be able to lay out better facts that prove to the population that it should be legal and for XYZ, probably because it really wouldn't get bought anyway.
Right.
If you have the valid proof for that,
True.
I would like to see it, and it might be that we could produce heroin at a very low cost. It's very possible. I don't know because
It probably can be
like
done.
totally uncut straight heroin is, other than it being ridiculously addictive, is not actually a problem. It's just what the addiction does to you, and especially if it's cut, it'll start to kill you.
Yep.
Or will possibly kill you on the shot with fentanyl.
True. Yeah.
Right. So, but if it's totally legalized, you have the whole process, especially if you have like what do you call it? Like the crews that would watch over you, or like medical oversight of the use. Like, it's possible that it just becomes a non-issue. It's very possible.
I see. And then you're removing these people's lives off the street,
Which is very
potentially.
important.
And
Which is very important.
Sure, it might create more of a bottleneck with the healthcare system, but that to me is more easily compatible than trying to just solve homelessness.
Now, one of the issues that comes up from this, issues with drugs and legalizing drugs completely, is that what are the dealers going to do? Like high-scale dealers. Right? Generally speaking, they're criminals anyway. So either they're already doing other acts of criminality that we're just not arresting them for,
Right.
or they're, in my opinion, there's a certain amount of those, and Herb was a former inmate who disagreed heavily with me on this, but I feel like there's a certain amount of people that are just criminals. Don't actually integrate with systems completely at all. Right? They want to go against the system. They want to do something illegal. If that's the case, there needs to be a solution for those people that's viable. And it can't just be build a tent city and keep it monitored, because that was Herb's solution. I think that's completely inviable. I don't think it's a solution. I don't think that's a viable solution.
I don't see that either.
What do you do with... Because we have to be honest about this. Like, there's just deadbeat fathers, alcoholics, drug abusers who just will not conform to society, even if we made this legal haven of drugs.
Right.
What do we do with those people?
Yeah, that's a good point. I mean, I think the percentage of people...
I'm not trying to treat them as a subject. I'm saying, as the state, how do you treat that problem?
Right.
Because those people are not actually agreeing with what we agree with as a society. And we are too tolerant. We are too tolerant of people being not aggregate to society.
Right.
We're too tolerant.
I think the specific amount of people you're talking about aren't as big as we think, because when you trace back the roots of crime, a lot of them really aren't just because... A lot of them are for a reason, right? If you trace back the roots, a lot of the causes of crime are...
Mostly poverty.
Mental health, socioeconomic status,
Correct.
upbringing, fatherlessness, all, 5 things we talked about and have been talking about.
Correct.
And, of course, you can add a 6th element in there to many more elements, but another element of criminality, too, and why people commit crimes is, like you were saying, because some people just have a criminal mind.
Yeah.
And some people just want to commit crimes. Some people are just evil and sadistic, sure, for some really high,
There's a lot of
disgusting
different
crimes,
adjectives that you can use,
but
though.
not
when it's
every
just-
crime is like that.
Yeah,
Some
or it
people
could
are
even
just
be a petty
rebellious.
thing. Yeah, rebellious. That was a better
Some people
word.
are just rebellious.
Yep.
Right? Well, I mean, if you're a murderer and you just want to kill somebody, you were just born, you were born that way, most likely. Right?
Right.
That would be sadistic. But if you're habitual, I don't know, at the federal level marijuana user, you're still a criminal. Potentially.
Correct.
I guess in DC.
No, correct. You are. No,
You're
it's
still a
correct.
criminal. So, like, to me, that's just rebellion. So some people are going to be a little more resistant to falling into a structure. And I think as Americans, a little bit of that is built into every single one of us.
Correct.
And I think that's a good
Correct.
thing.
Correct.
And
Where
I-
do you draw the line?
That's the question. That's the question
That's
I'm
a
trying to
better
get
question.
at. Is
Yeah.
where do you draw that line?
Yeah.
Can that line be flexible? I think in a perfect world, I think it should be
I
flexible.
think it has to be flexible in a perfect world.
Right. In a perfect world, I think that line is flexible. That line takes a lot of factors into consideration. And I think that line is higher, honestly, because I really don't like to impose ways
Laws
of
on
living,
behavior.
ways of living on people.
Laws on behavior.
Right.
Laws on behavior is a slippery slope,
Right.
no matter how you justify it.
Even de facto though too, like through society, like
Like
I think
shame,
there-
with shame.
right. Like I think because like we can look back throughout history and look at what people are shamed about and we laugh about it now, right?
Right.
So some of the things you can kind of trace throughout history and see how one thing led to another and how it kind of snowballed into a bigger issue. But I think that there should be a social structure, a family structure that is generally adhered to. But I don't think it's necessarily a problem if someone wants to be a social deviant.
Right.
And, maybe
Right.
not entirely, but like if someone has qualities of that, maybe some more so than most people, I don't think that needs to condemn them to prison.
Right.
I
Right.
think diversity and personality and individuals, I'm going to sound really fucking liberal here, but I think it makes for an interesting society.
Right. It brings it brings the melting pot
Right.
society actually into play.
I mean, meeting different kinds of people just gives you a more fulfilling and interesting life, in my opinion.
Absolutely.
I don't see a problem if some dude wants to dress up as a Jamaican prince and walk around all day. Like, yeah, of course I'm gonna look at you like you're a weirdo, but like there shouldn't be law against
Right.
that. But I guess I guess I'm kind of sounding like a hypocrite there because I would be like judging him silently. But it's not like I wouldn't like.
It should be.
I would be judging
it should
him
be personal. It should be personal. You should be
Right.
allowed to do it.
Right. No, but I'm saying
have
it's
your
like,
right,
it's not
right?
like I'll like talk to like never want to like
guess
look at
let
him.
me-
I wouldn't be offended
Let
in
me
his
just
presence.
interpose
I wouldn't
a
be offended
scenario
in his
that's,
presence.
That's very
That's the difference.
interconnected. That just to end our show on here. All right. Now, same scenario. You see someone dressed up, but it's obviously a man, and he's walking down the street confidently as a woman. But it's
Right.
obviously a man.
Right, like a cross-dresser.
As a
Transgender.
society, do we get to the point where that needs to be publicly shamed? Is that a proper public shaming?
See, honest, I don't think so.
I don't think so either.
I don't think so.
I don't
Because
think so either.
as long as you're an adult
Yeah.
and you're doing what you want to do,
Agreed.
I don't now because let's be honest, it is a mental illness.
Yes.
That's a severe mental illness. I don't think that what you're doing is making fun of that mental illness by proxy then. If you publicly shame it, right? Because publicly shaming isn't going to accomplish anything.
Publicly shaming, let's just be clear, publicly shaming does basically nothing except for if you have enough of you, you can get mob mentality and possibly get your
Right.
government involved in taking out the group that you're shaming.
And get a few laughs, maybe making fun of this person.
Well, you might be
whatever.
able to utilize political power. That's basically
Right.
one way that you can utilize shaming, and I think that's why I think it's dangerous.
Right.
That's why I don't think it's good.
I think we need to promote thinking and understanding that it's not the best, right? That
Just not the best decision. Maybe not
won't-
the best
It's not
decision
going to be
tree.
the best to do this, right? But it certainly shouldn't be illegal. And I think there's going to be a fine line between, oh, mommy, what's that? Oh, that's a man dressed as a woman. But like having the conversation with them, like, oh, there's potentially something wrong with them. Like, yeah,
Yep.
they're like,
needs
there's
to be a
there's no way
valid-
about it. Like, I don't think,
Yeah, it needs to be a valid conversation.
right.
I think
it's
is what you're saying.
I think it just
and-
needs to be more genuine.
Yeah, but one thing I think that just normal people are struggling to make this argument, which I think is a very point A to point B argument, is that a man can never do the pure natural roles of a woman. It's impossible, and vice versa.
True.
It's impossible.
That is true.
You could surgically try to get as close as possible, but naturally speaking, a man will never be able to have a baby come out of inside of him, and vice versa. A woman will never be able to have a penis work with sperm coming out.
That is true. That is
Can't
100% true.
Okay.
And there's no gray area or ambiguity there.
Correct, but we need to, as a society, point out that that's an issue.
Right.
That is something to not be strived for, especially for our children. Right? For our children to look at that as a possible hero figure.
True. That
That is
that I
something
agree
that
with.
we need to educate heavily, and I don't think it's public shaming, right? I think exactly
Right.
how you were pointing it out is exactly how it needs to be done. It's like,
Right.
yeah, yes, honey, yes. You're right. That is not normal. That is a man dressed as a woman.
That is a man dressed as a
Now,
woman.
Don't make fun of him because he has the freedoms to do whatever he
Don't make fun of
pleases.
him. He has a problem.
That being said, he has a problem.
but
and
he's,
explain the problem.
But he's still a human. He's
still a
not to be
human
made
being.
fun of.
Yep.
He needs help. That's it. You don't. You don't need to be scared around him necessarily.
Yeah, correct. As
Maybe.
long as you're with me. No,
As
no,
long
no,
as you're with me.
As long as you're with me, you have
Right.
nothing to worry about. He's just another person, just like it was Uncle Steve or whoever the fuck.
Or
Right?
Uncle Pedo Joe.
Right? Like come up with someone that your daughter's terrified of.
Right.
Right? But that's the way that our country needs to get around it, rather than saying, "Oh, that's totally okay. He's living his best life, and
Right.
and that is a woman."
Right.
Right?
Or on the converse side of that, just automatically dismissing it like, they should be executed or that kind of thing, right?
They,
Like,
they shouldn't be a part of
they
society.
shouldn't be part of society. Yeah.
Yeah, they shouldn't have the same rights. They shouldn't
Yeah.
be whatever, right? If someone wants to pay $35,000 to cut their nutsack off and call themselves a woman, what do you care? Problem is when they start telling and teaching your kids that that's the right thing to do for them.
And
That is the major issue.
and that you're actually a woman.
Yes. And one of the problems that I think we should end it here. The school system nowadays will wink, wink, nod, nod at that.
Right.
They will. All right. I'll always give my personal example. I had a transgender student in my class, they ended up taking the class over and teaching for a day or two. I don't remember. I just had to walk out. I didn't pay attention for the section. It was.
Was this in college or high school?
No, it was high school. This was wrong. This was
a student that took over the class?
Correct. It was a transgender student explaining to us the world of all the genders.
Okay.
Yes.
Nice.
Like, when you have things like that happening at a very just modest high school in the middle of New Jersey, right, what is supposed to be a great educational system, right? My point being is, let's get back to grounded values. Let's come back to reality where we can recognize that that is an obvious example, right, where I think as a society we can come together and not publicly shame that person and not call them out, right, especially as conservatives. You don't have to trash that person for making a poor decision on your life. You know that is probably not the best decision that person ever made.
Right.
You know that. You don't have to shame them for it. You don't have to point it out, especially in their comments section if they have a TikTok.
It doesn't have to make you feel good to do so either.
Right. But, big but, we need to have better education standards in all varieties, especially to our children.
Especially because that was in public school.
Yes.
Where that happened. Now, I don't necessarily have an issue with that in college where you're supposed to.
Well, then you're an adult. But then you're an adult.
But you're supposed to be a little more
decision.
Intellectually open, and you're supposed to
get challenged,
which is
fun.
And you're supposed to have different ideologies.
Sure, but you know
that
how
are in synthesis with each other.
And
they're all one-sided.
Nowadays,
though.
I don't know. Nowadays, I don't know.
But they're all one-sided for the most part.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's I think, like I said, I think this is one clear-cut issue where we need to have just a middle ground needs to be more firm. Middle ground of those people are not the gender that they're claiming to be. They are just they're trying to be something that they're not, and we need to try to help them as a society. Don't publicly shame them. Don't put them out to be non-human because they are obviously human. They are going through clearly human emotion.
Right.
It's
sad to watch. It really is. It's
especially
sad.
To someone that you knew. Especially to someone that you knew, someone that you grew
up with.
Like another one.
I can think of a couple.
I had two, the one that I mentioned already, but one that waited until after high school to come out.
Really?
And it makes me feel terrible because I considered this person a friend.
Really?
Right? Yeah, really. Like, I mean, he was silent. He was a very to himself kid. And when I found out that the change had been made and go to look up the name and sure as shit, if he ever heard that. But you know what I mean? Like that's fucked up. Like, that really hit home that, like, maybe he was just hiding that shit because he knew the reaction.
Maybe he was quiet because, right. Which, it is kind of sad that,
Yeah, it makes me feel fucking terrible.
Because he knows that he was struggling or had a problem.
Yes.
And he was afraid of the social repercussions of that.
That's just my assumption.
Right.
Obviously.
Well,
you can never look into his head.
I could see that being the case, though, and I could see that
but
being
I just
the case
told you
for a lot
story.
of people.
But I just told you a story.
Right.
So I can't go into his head. I can't say that, but it's sad when it's like I said, someone that you grew up with, and you personally see someone that you've never seen exist.
Wow.
Yeah. Like, how could I picture? Like, I haven't seen this person since high school, at least to my knowledge.
You wouldn't recognize him.
I wouldn't know.
Wow.
I wouldn't know.
Probably saw him on a dating app and swiped right.
It's possible. I haven't been on those for a long time. Thank God.
Yeah. Had to throw that in there too in case Gina was listening.
Everybody, yeah, right. Everybody go catch WeThePatriotsMedia.com. We're gonna go hop on a bonus show after I take a piss because I am shot right now. Hope you guys enjoyed the show. Please share it. This was episode 50.
Big
50 episodes. 50 episodes with all you people. Thank you. Andrew, what do you got?
Nothing. Peace out. Thanks for listening.
Make all these bitches say, damn. I wish I were the fucking state. I wanna be something, not nothing. Trapped inside my dream and I'm running away from these demons. But the feeling's so good, I'ma keep dreaming.